Welcome back to the Elise Surkov podcast, where we help women in perimenopause and menopause thrive unapologetically from the inside out. Today, I want to talk about something that may or may not resonate with you if you're someone who is like always trying to chase skinny. And that is the fact that I just sucked at being skinny. I say this a lot on Instagram. I share this a lot in my community, is that I just am really bad at being skinny. And I wish I could go back to my younger teenage self and just like give myself a big hug and say, don't worry about sucking at being skinny because you're going to fucking rock being strong. And so let's back up. So I grew up as a dancer. I've been on stage, started dancing on stage at the age of 2. It sounds like, oh my God, dancing on stage. I mean, like it was like ballet, right? So we were in one big line and I was in the middle and like I nailed it because I realized at the age of 2 that I loved to be on stage. I loved the excitement of it. I loved the thrill of it. And I did tap, jazz, ballet, musical theater, you name it, I did it. It's actually, I did dance up until I was age 18. At age 16, I started teaching dance, which was also really exciting, paid really well. So growing up as a dancer, I really did not fit in. It was so fucking obvious that like I was the thicker girl in the line, and especially like, I did a chorus line and we are literally standing in a line. I was the shortest. I had the thickest legs. I had boobs. I had ass. I had shape. Now, what worked in my favor was that I actually stood out, not just by my physical appearance, but by my talent as well. I also could sing. I, was very, electric on stage. And so I would typically get the leads. I remember the very first lead I got, it was in this musical theater number and it was called The Doll from Paris. And it was about, I don't even remember what it was about, but it was about a doll from Paris. And I was the doll and I got to wear this big, beautiful tattoo. That's where my brain is at. Tutu. It was this big, beautiful tutu and ballet slippers. And I just loved it. So like I already kind of stood out. And this was like most of my dancing quote unquote career until I probably was about 14. So like right in the thick of puberty when everything's starting to change. And my dance teacher looked me dead in the eye and said to me, I'll never forget, he said this. He said, you have to work harder than all the other girls because you don't look like them and you have a harder time because of your body. And I just like, I mean, who says that to a 14-year-old girl? But that was basically like, you're thick, you're chunky, and everyone else around you is like lean and slim. And yet at the same time, whatever kind of number I was in, the teacher gave me the lead. And so it always worked in my favor because I stood out to stand out even more. But I remember hating it. I just hated it. And I wanted to be skinny. I think like that little girl inside of me, and if you're listening, you can probably relate to this. As little girls, we just don't want to stand out. We just want to fit in. And the only time I was comfortable standing out was when I was doing a dance number, because that's like I felt comfortable. I felt in my element. But I remember, taking this with me throughout the rest of my teenage years and into my 20s, and fuck, even really into my 30s and early 40s, where like I am petite. All right. Like I'm 5'1" on a good day. So like most people are taller than me. Most people are bigger than me. My whole life, people like will pat me on the head and like, oh, you're so cute. And like, no one likes to be called cute, especially like a 46-year-old woman. Like, don't fucking call me cute. But it was just like, this is where I'm at. And I think what really made the difference for me was also when I was 14 is when I discovered the weight room and I started lifting weights at 14. And that's when I started to shift out of this like dancer mentality into strong and strength. But I tried so hard. And, in my 20s, when I got married and was growing a family, having kids, getting pregnant, I just remembered being like, I just want to get back and like, I don't even know what it's like to be skinny. I've never in my life been skinny. Now, I will say that at 46 years old, I am probably the leanest I've ever been. I'm definitely not the smallest I've ever been. I have been smaller, but that smaller was in my early 40s and not necessarily in my 20s. Whereas a lot of women that we work with are like, when I was in my 20s, I was like a size 2 and I was like a size 10, maybe like a Gap size 8. I didn't think I would never have described me as being fat, but I was definitely thick and curvy and like voluptuous, right? And so I had like an hourglass shaped figure. So it like I kind of carried it well. But there was a time in my life not too long ago that I was like, I am tired being thick. I don't want to be thick anymore. Now, I had a lot of limiting beliefs around my body and how I could change my body. And back in 2019, when I first made my transformation, I was like, I'm tired of looking fluffy and thick and heavy, and people don't even know that I work out. And here I am teaching and training like 7 days a week, doing all the things, and I don't fucking look like it. And I was just like tired of getting in my own way. So when I made this transformation, I've never gone back. Like my physique is still kind of ahead of the game of where it was in that transformation 6 years ago. So from that standpoint, I'm still like in a what I would call like a leaner state, but I definitely was smaller because there was a part of me that was like, I'm going to go fucking balls to the wall and crush skinny. And so I tracked every fucking thing I had. I brought containers with me everywhere I went. I eat, slept, and breathed it. I tracked my steps, my workouts, and everything. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't love the way I looked, which is shocking, right? Because you're like, but Elise, you got down to such a low weight. I actually didn't like the way I looked at my lowest weight. I didn't like it. I didn't feel like I looked as strong as I do now. I felt like I looked lean, and I felt like I looked skinnier, but I looked small. I didn't feel like I had this size. I didn't feel like I looked like myself. I guess when I actually talk it out, I kind of looked like a weaker version of who I truly am or who I felt inside. And so I didn't love it. And the other thing was, it didn't last long because I don't really resonate with that lifestyle to diet down where I needed to be that lean and small. So when you're someone who doesn't have a lot of weight to lose, if you're trying to lose like that last 5 or 10 pounds, depending on your size, like for me, it's 5 pounds for sure. But for you at like 5'4", 5'5", it could be 10 pounds. What I had to do in order to get down to that weight is something that I'm just not prepared to do ever again in this stage of life right now. Like, so for example, do I need to track everything to know what I'm overeating? Absolutely not. Like I just came off the Jewish holidays and I overate, and I was open about this with my communities. Like I ate like an asshole for the first time in like years, and like that's kind of refreshing and like, oh, I can't believe I did that. But now it just reaffirms the fact that like, hey, I know what it feels like to do that and to not do that, and I don't want to do that. So the first reaction could be like, well, I got to lose the weight and I got to, start tracking everything. And I'm like, fuck that shit. I don't need to track my macros to know that I'm overeating. I don't need to track my macros to know that my hand's dipping into the fucking chips, the French fries, all the things that I typically don't have in my diet. I don't need to track in order to do that. Now, when I'm in a cut, let's say I did want to shave off a few pounds, I will get super granular and I will 100% track everything because I want to make sure that I'm eating enough, not less, but I want to make sure I'm having enough protein, fiber, and healthy fats in my diet, especially now for hormonal optimization and for satiety. Okay. So like if I wanted to lose weight right now, that's how I would do it, because I wouldn't want to just like, let's say, cut out carbs and, eat like half of everything, because then I'd be starving and then I'm going to go right back into the chips and to the cookies and all the things that I know is not going to help me. All right. So I don't need to do that. But when I look back at like, hey, what did I need to do to be that lean, is I needed to be on 100% of the time, because what's going to get you here won't get you there. And to get there, what I need right now would be like to eat, sleep, and breathe this habit. I would need to make sure that like all my meals are weighed out and measured. I would have to like say no to things going out. And I'm just not in the phase of life right now, honestly, wholeheartedly, where that's a priority for me. And that's even hard to say because obviously I work with women and helping them get weight off, but I'm not helping them get down to their smallest size. Like we don't really do that. I don't know many women in our program who's ever gotten results in our program with being the smallest version themselves. In fact, most women will say, hey, I want to get down to this size. They don't even get there. They get down to like a smaller size and they're happy. And they're like, this is where I'm most comfortable. So like, let me use my life, for example. Right now, I am strong as fuck, but I'm also hormonal as fuck. I'm not superwoman. I am aging. I have aches. I have pains. I have falling progesterone. I have titration issues right now. I have estrogen dominance. I have a family. I have a daughter who's applying for university. I have a son who's type 1 diabetic. I have a husband that I want to spend time with. I have, parents and in-laws who are aging. I have all the things in my life right now. And the most important thing for me, and I've talked about this in my Eat, Pray, Love Summer. If you want to go listen to that podcast, I'll link that below. The priority for me right now is stability, is nervous system regulation, and coming from a healthy place. I am prioritizing sleep. I'm prioritizing nutrition. I'm prioritizing training. But being a smaller version of me right now is not what I need. I have too many things right now that are more important. That's not to say that I'm in the fuck it mentality and I'm not going to go ahead and, double down on my training or like eat like an asshole. Like how I'm kind of reining it back in, if you will, is like getting super granular without tracking, is like keeping my 3 meals, 1 snack, if that, keeping my hand out of the fucking chip bag, because we know what happens when we start eating like an asshole. It's just easy to keep going and going. And so practicing a little bit of restriction. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, I'll link that below. I did a podcast on we have to redefine restriction because you need some sort of restriction. You are a fucking grown ass woman. You can't just do and eat and behave and do whatever you want and not expect to have consequences for that. So I say I sucked at being skinny because I got there, but then what? It didn't last long and I wasn't really happy there. Whereas, like right now, I'm sleeping well. My hormones, for the most part, right now are optimized. I have a healthy relationship with my children. I have a healthy relationship with my husband. I have balance. I'm living out of chaos. And I don't even remember ever really living like this. Do I want to be a smaller version of myself? I mean, I know people say like women can never have enough. You never can be too skinny or too rich, right? But every action has a reaction. So I look at like, what is the cost of being smaller versus like, what is the benefit? What is the benefit of me being smaller? My clothes are going to be loose, so they're not going to look good. I might have to buy a smaller size, and I'm going to have to buy more clothes. And like, what? Am I going to be more confident in a bikini? Like, we're going away over Christmas time to Punta Cana. If I had to put on a bikini right now, I would. I'd fucking rock that bikini. I'd probably take some pictures for the gram. My abs would be showing. I've got some cellulite. I've got some junk in my trunk, but I got some pipes also that I would flex. So like, I feel pretty good. So like, what would I have to do to quote unquote look better? I don't know who's going to judge me. Now, if I wanted to do a photo shoot or a bodybuilding competition, then definitely. If I said, you know what, summer's coming and I want to see some definition in my legs and I'm definitely lower body heavy, so I want to shave something, great, fine. But like, really, what's the benefit? I'm healthy, I'm strong, and I'm living in a place of vitality right now. So why would I want to fuck that up? So, I say this with like, take this with a grain of salt. I'm not saying don't lose weight. Okay. Because for a lot of women, the problem is that we almost have the opposite, and like the opposite, I can't think of the word now, but like the opposite is like going through our head where we're like, I don't need to lose weight. Everything's fine. And then, it's like 5 pounds. And then 5 pounds becomes 10 pounds. 10 pounds becomes a new size. Your clothes don't fit. And now you don't like who you see in the mirror, but you don't realize that these things happen slowly. So the best thing that you can do to kind of gauge this is go buy your clothes. So for me, my clothes still fit. In fact, I don't want my clothes to just fit. I want them to be a little bit loose. I don't like wearing tight anything. So like I'm wearing jeans right now. I haven't put these jeans on in a year. Funny enough, I like skipped the whole summer, like spring season. I'm wearing like, like ankle jeans right now, but I'm like, oh, fuck, these fit perfectly. So I'm like, I'm fucking happy, like we're good. My weight's the same as it was last year or like a year and a half ago. Like I'm solid. And that's not to say that in some part of this next year or some part of the next 5 years, I might want to change that. Maybe I decide to do a bodybuilding show. Maybe I want to do a photo shoot. Maybe I just want to cut and like lose some like fluffy weight that I've gained while titrating HRT, like whatever it is. I know that like if I'm ready to do it, then I will. But for right now, I'm telling you, I'm so much more than skinny. My worth, my value, my love, my passion, my dedication, my energy, my brain health always functions optimally when I'm at a healthier weight, which is where I am right now. So why would I want to chase something that doesn't work for me? So chasing skinny doesn't work. Fucking rocking strong works. I love it. I love double down, being going double down on being strong. And you can do that when you're eating well. Another thing I don't like about being, that leaner version of myself is like, I'm not hitting PBs. I'm not getting stronger. And I don't know about you, but my goal is to wipe my own butt when I'm 91. In order to do that, I got to keep my strength up. I've got to keep my mobility up. I've got to keep my flexibility up. And these are not sexy, fun things. These are things that require daily action items to make sure that like I'm checking off the boxes. I'm doing my workouts. I'm doing my stretching. I'm doing my mobility. I'm getting enough sleep. I'm getting enough fiber. I'm getting enough, all the things to keep my vitality up. So if you're out there and you're like, yeah, I fucking resonate with this, and you just feel like you're in a place right now where you are not rocking strong and you want to, I'm going to put the link to our program below so that you can just go check it out, get a little bit more information of like what we do, how we do things. And then like, it's not a hard sell. Just because you're watching a video doesn't mean you have to get into the program. Even if you book a call, we're pretty selective of who we bring into our program because we are looking for women like me who are not chasing skinny, who have a realistic view of where they want to live the rest of their life and how they want to age. And so we're not a community of women who are trying to be our 20-year-old selves. We're a community of women who is like, I have so much fucking hotness and life left in me. And that's the direction I want to go. Hopefully this was helpful. I'll link everything below. If you have any questions, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and I will see you on the next one.